All right, and welcome back into Win or Lose Chiefs News podcast with Alex Liu on Alu2 Productions YouTube channel. I will have the link to my blog post that I just published today. It is Wednesday, it's hump day. It's not a very good feeling this week, only 2 days removed from the Monday Night Football loss, Chiefs to the Jagz down in Jacksonville. Whether you're watching or listening to this, any Chiefs fans, all are welcome. Please let me know if you stumbled upon this channel and this podcast. I tried doing this weekly, but it's been a lot easier to kind of a weird way want to really get into making a podcast when the Chiefs lose, because there's a lot more to vent and complain and talk about. You know, I have some notes from the game just as I was watching in real time, just jotting down some of my thoughts from what I saw, takeaways that I had. Before we go any further, please do subscribe, like, comment, share, follow me on Instagram, and just know that Chiefs fans out there, I am located in the DMV, Washington, D.C., Maryland, and Virginia area, so I am an out-of-town, out-of-market Chiefs fan myself. I am from Kansas City originally, but if you are also a fan who's located elsewhere in the country or around the world and you are listening, watching, please let me know. I would love to know, where you come from, where you're located, and you're, following up the Chiefs. I haven't really focused too much of the podcast specifically on that yet, but that is going to be a focus and something I want to kind of make special and unique about this podcast, is not just talking about the Chiefs. As the name implies, win or lose, I'm going to talk about the Chiefs. I'm going to get on here and talk about my thoughts, but I do also want part of this podcast to highlight just how special it is to follow your team, being our team, the Kansas City Chiefs, from afar. Long story short, and I'll get into this more in like a future episode, and it's actually written on my blog if you want to kind of learn a little bit more about me. But I've been a lifelong Chiefs fan. I'm in my early 30s. Like I said, I was born in Kansas City, Overland Park, Kansas to be specific, but I lived in Kansas City for the first 3 years of my life, and then I moved to the East Coast and have really spent the majority of my life on the East Coast, but I've never stopped rooting for the Chiefs. I plan on having future episodes and also content on my blog talking about what it's like, the ups and downs, struggles and challenges of being a Chiefs fan, and really a sports fan in general of a team that you're not really close to in proximity, and you don't have a lot of your fellow fans around you to really talk about your team with. But a bit of good news is that I am actually going to be going to Arrowhead for the Raiders game. Really pumped about that, and it's going to be just my third game all time at Arrowhead. The last time I was at Arrowhead was 2018. The last time I saw the Chiefs live was 2021 at FedEx Field when they played Washington. Just wanted to kind of set the stage there before we really dive into the episode. So we're going to be recapping Chiefs and Jagz. We'll do a little bit of previewing the Lions game. And right now it's pretty frustrating for Chiefs fans. I mean, I really walked away from watching that game on Monday night. I think the feeling was at a high level, very disappointed. I felt like that was a game that the Chiefs were more than capable of winning. In this game, it was similar to the Ravens game. They got out to a fast start. They were up 14-0. And they just kind of let the Jags hang around. The Jags got going. There were plenty of struggles in the second half. The second half was very messy. I think they only had 2 penalties in the first half. And then in the second half, they ended up with a total to end the game of 13 penalties for over 100 yards. I think the Chiefs might be one of the higher penalized teams in the league for sure. And I believe on the broadcast they were saying that Jawaan Taylor is the most penalized player in all of the NFL. Early on, and I'll touch on this more specifically as we keep going, but he did have a penalty where he was uncovered on the line of scrimmage, and I don't know enough about that rule. I'd have to go and read the reasoning and why, but my understanding is there's supposed to be a certain number of players that are on and off the line of scrimmage. So really, I don't think that was on Jawaan Taylor. I don't think that was his fault. I think it was on one of the receivers to know they should have been on or off the line of scrimmage, whatever it was. I don't really think that was on Jawaan Taylor. But the penalties really got out of control in the second half. They stalled drives. They, really prevented us to have the same kind of offensive rhythm and momentum that we had in the first half. And to start the first half, I really saw our offensive production as carryover from the Ravens game. And I was pleased. I was happy overall, but I also just kind of had this feeling like, is this sustainable? up 2 touchdowns, are they going to continue to keep their feet on the gas? Because that's been a problem with them really in the entire Mahomes era, is even when they were scoring over 30 points per game in 2018 and 2019, 2020, they have this way about them of, they remain to be probably the biggest thing that beats themselves. It's penalties, it's mistakes, and we'll cover all of the mistakes, but it's also just not finishing drives, not finishing the game. This was a game that really I think they should have won, and hats off to Jacksonville for coming back, for being a good football team, but I just think the Chiefs are the better team. They didn't play a full 4 quarters, and even with a chance to win the game, they couldn't finish it out in the end. So really unfortunate. And now we are sitting at 2-3. I saw something on ESPN, some kind of clickbait video where they're talking on ESPN's, Get Up in the mornings. And I think Jeff Saturday was asking this question of, whether the Chiefs are at risk of missing the playoffs. And, I think that is a huge, it's not out of the question, but it's just, that's a pretty bold question, topic, statement to ask and throw out there, because, we just got into October, 2-3. I mean, 3 losses. Are you really that big of risk of missing the playoffs? But when you put into perspective that we have the Lions coming to town now, and that's another great team right there. I do feel a little bit more confident playing at home against them, but nonetheless, they're still a great team, so it's going to be very challenging. It's prime time. It's Sunday Night Football. There's still a lot of season left. I would like to think we're going to win the Raider game. I would like to think that, as challenging as the Commanders are, we can beat the Commanders at home, just like I think we can beat the Lions at home. I think this 3-game stretch, and I was really hoping for a Jaguars win, because that would have put us with a winning record, and only, we just have 1 game left until Rashee Rice comes back. But the way that I think the team collectively, in all 3 phases, offense, defense, and special teams, is playing right now, is it just doesn't seem like on a day where they lose, really all 3 phases are kind of making mistakes. Against the Chargers, they struggled on offense and defense. They got some things going, but there were struggles all around. Butker through the first 4 weeks, right? I think through the first 4 weeks or 5 weeks, he's missed at least 1 field goal, right? And then in this game, he's perfect on field goals and extra points, but he has a critical error kicking the ball out of bounds and getting penalized, and the Jaguars get to start at the 40-yard line on their final drive of the game, when you just need them to march down the field. They already had 2 timeouts and a minute 45 to work with, so that was critical. I just don't think, other than the Ravens game, we've really yet to put a complete game together against a team that really poses a threat and a challenge to us. Because a lot of people are going to argue that, the Ravens were banged up. They weren't really themselves. Like, they kind of put an asterisk and give a pass on that kind of a win. Was this a wake-up call for the Chiefs? No, I don't really think so. I think the wake-up call was week 1, and honestly dating back to the Super Bowl. But if you're just talking about the season, I think it was week 1, just how they came out flat, lacked energy, did not start fast, slow start, a lot of problems with penalties. Yeah, I think penalty problems just continues to be a theme of the season, and it's really unfortunate, because I think the Chiefs have, like Mahomes said it in this one article I was reading on ESPN, they have the players and they have the talent there. This team knows what they're capable of, and there's a lot of trust in this team, and I still think that we're one of the best teams in the league, but we're just not always playing like it, and a lot of problems are coming from penalties. And it was really disappointing in the first half to see Hollywood Brown, a veteran in this league, get penalized for hitting a Jaguars defender in the face. They're pushing, they're shoving well after the whistle. It's just like when you're a kid and you're fighting with one of your siblings, who gets caught and who actually gets in trouble. It's the one that mom and dad actually catches. You could have smacked your brother or sister in the face, but mom and dad didn't see, and then all of a sudden they come and hit you back, and then all of a sudden it's mom and dad are like the referees. They're going to go off of what they see last. The pushing and shoving isn't really a big deal. It's the strike to the face, we can't have that. And I forget what drive that was or at what point. I'm pretty sure it was in the second quarter, but we were driving, and it just backs you up. It throws you out of any kind of rhythm, momentum you're building. We've got to play clean. We've got to play disciplined. Stuff like that can't be happening, and especially from a veteran. But really, even if you're a rookie, if you've been playing a sport for a long period of time, you have to realize that guys are going to do things to try to get under your skin. Let them be the ones to get in trouble. We can't have that. It's plain and simple. I don't really need to go on and on about that, because it's just stupid. So yeah, we sit at 2-3. We're in third place in the AFC West. I don't really see the Raiders doing a whole lot this year, given how they've started out. But the Broncos and Chargers, the division is nowhere near out of reach. Both of those teams are beatable, but they're also tough. We've already seen that against the Chargers. After the Bills game and the bye week, the Chiefs are going to have to go to Denver in week 11 of this season, and that's going to be a tough game. Are the Chiefs in trouble? There's concern. I think a big question is just, how do you go from a fast start, jumping out to a 14-0 lead, and then just not really do anything with it going from there? I think a lot of times when I talk with my wife as we're watching these games, and I listen to other podcasts and analysts and football talk shows out there talk about these things, and you hear it from coaches and players alike. It's hard, because sometimes I think when you see the way that the Chiefs played against the Ravens, it's like, wow, like they had a really good game. I mean, yeah, they kind of started off a little bit slower in that game. They only managed 2 field goals, I think, through the first quarter and a half or so. And then they got rolling with the touchdowns, and they put up 37 points. Really, even in a game where you can dominate, yeah, you might have 6-7 straight drives where you're just scoring points, and that does happen. This is the pros. In a tough game against the Jaguars made adjustments. The Chiefs also did things to hurt themselves, self-inflicted mistakes. So I think it's a mix. You have this challenging opposition coming from the Jaguars, where they're trying to figure out adjustments that they can make. Like, I think there was a play at one point where the Chiefs, their very first play on a drive, they try doing like a jet sweep to Worthy, and Josh Hines Allen, DN for the Jagz, just completely sniffed it out and busted the play. And then it was a 6-yard loss. And that already kind of set the tone for the drive of, okay, now it's 2nd and 16. You're playing behind the sticks, changes up your play calling a little bit. It's just little things like that. Like, one play sometimes can throw things off. You go from having such a lead, like a 2-score lead, and you have an opportunity to extend that lead even more or whatever. The adjustments or a blown up play, in theory, you would think, like, yeah, just replicate what we did last drive, but it's just not always that simple, unfortunately. And that's the frustrating part, is why can't we get out to a 21-0 lead? I think just seeing that lacking ability from the Chiefs to like really get out to like a big lead and control and dominate a game, especially when they start off that way. How do you sustain continued momentum, drive after drive, the ability to call the right plays, the ability to stay ahead of the sticks, keep moving the ball? Because when they have plays like that jet sweep to Worthy that work, keep doing that. But then when those plays kind of get blown up, and then it sort of throws them off their rhythm, and then all of a sudden it turns into like a 3-and-out or eventual punt. It's hard. It's easier said than done. We can't just expect that on offense they're going to go out drive after drive and just always score. It's not always going to be perfect. The defense is constantly trying to figure out other things to throw at you to prevent you from doing what you do well or what you're trying to do. And that's why they say football is a chess match. It's tough. I mean, it's frustrating because on one hand, as a fan, you look at it as like, gosh, like they have a chance to go up a lot bigger than that and they just can't get it done. I think where it gets more frustrating for me, other than just like, oh, they're up 14-0. Why can't they extend it even more? I think when they were up 14-7 and they were getting ready to close out the second half, they had a chance to do what they call double dipping, where you, as an offense, have the ball to close out the first half, and then you're going to get the ball to start the second half. So you're getting 2 straight possessions as long as you don't turn the ball over or have a 3-and-out, punt, miss a field goal, miss out on points. But it's just that. You have a chance to go down and score. And the Chiefs weren't able to do that. And starting the second half, same thing. They were not able to do that. So they blow a chance at potentially making that like a 21 or 28-7 lead, or maybe even like the best it would be is like a 28-7 lead. Bare minimum, maybe it's like 17-7 or 20-7 if they could just get 2 field goals, right? That proved to be costly because the Jags took advantage and came down and tied up the game 14-14, and then there was the pick six, and so then all of a sudden you're down 21-14, and really at that point the defense had only given up 14 points. The Chiefs offense gifted the Jaguars 7 points of their own. So, and that came at a really bad time. I mean, Mahomes' only other interception this season, the one that Kelsey dropped and it tipped up in the air and got intercepted by a defender in the Eagles game. This one was Mahomes' fault. He didn't see, I guess it was one of the Jaguars linebackers cut back inside. He rotated, shifted back inside, and picked that off. And it was a clean pick six. No one could get over there to bring him down. And it was just a nightmare to watch unfold. And that was really the point in the game where you just felt like, yeah, the Jaguars are really coming back, and the Chiefs are going to have to find some way to fight and stay in this game and give themselves a chance, which they did. They did absolutely give themselves a chance to win the game. No, I don't think that the Chiefs, again, I really try to not overreact too much. I think if we're sitting at this point later in the season and the Chiefs are like 5-6, 5-7, yeah, like at that point, you're just hoping they can win enough games to get into the playoffs. But 2-3, you never know. If we rattle off 3 straight wins at home and we've got a 6-3 record going up to Buffalo, these are just examples I'm throwing out, but we've just got to continue to take it one game at a time. They have, and I think we as fans share the same sentiment, there's just such high expectations for this team to win, to know how to win these games, to not blow our chances and make the kinds of mistakes that we're making, which is really beating ourselves, because we allowed the Jaguars to come back in this game. The Jaguars did not come in and punch us in the mouth. The Chargers straight up took it to us in week 1, and we had to battle back to make that a game. The Eagles game was very much like pretty tight, back and forth, and one costly mistake really allowed them to come away with that win. I don't really think they did much to like straight up beat us in that game. You know, the Giants, we didn't play the best, but second half was much better. We were able to win that game. Against the Ravens, we really took control at a certain point from the second quarter on. In this game, I mean, we really came out, I think, as the stronger team, but tale of two halves, and again, it's not how you start, it's how you finish, and that's exactly what the Jaguars did. They finished way better than we did. Despite the loss, some key plays worth highlighting. I mean, it was pretty impressive seeing the turnover that Nick Bolton forced at the goal line. I want to say that was 4th and goal, because I'm pretty sure it was 3rd and goal when Trevor Lawrence was running to the pylon, trying to get around the edge, and Jaden Hicks just laid a hammer of a hit on Trevor Lawrence, knocking him out of bounds at the 1. Trevor Lawrence tried diving over the pile on 4th and goal, reaching over the goal line, and just as he's approaching the goal line, Nick Bolton punches that ball out and never touched the plane. That ball fell right into the arms of George Karlaftis. That was an incredible, impressive play by Nick Bolton. Jaden Hicks, great tackle, great hit before that play, but great hold by the defense. And at that point, I believe the game was at 7-0 Chiefs, and the Chiefs took that turnover, and in just, I think, like 5 or 6 plays, kick-started by a huge Kareem Hunt run to get us around midfield. Chiefs marched down and just immediately capitalized on that to take a 14-0 lead. So that's where the frustration comes in, where they had their chances to do that throughout the game, and they just couldn't. They could not manage to continue that momentum after they first started the game. Now, credit the Jaguars. They clearly had some answers, but I still don't think that they were really doing a whole lot to like really stymie and stifle the Chiefs offense. There were just a lot of penalties, a lot of mistakes, and the Chiefs just were not able to take advantage. But Jaguars clearly made some adjustments. I wouldn't say the Jaguars did enough to really beat us the rest of the game going forward. I think the Chiefs did a little bit more beating of themselves. Elsewhere on offense, I think in terms of the running game, this was definitely a much more improved rushing attack after the first few weeks. What has been a narrative talking about how Mahomes has been the leading rusher on the team. Patrick Mahomes is still the leading rusher on the team because he continues to have to use his legs. Mahomes has 190 rushing yards on the season. Kareem Hunt is behind him with 164, and Pacheco is just 1 yard short of that at 163. That continues to still be a problem. I mean, I don't really care who has the most rushing yards, but that just goes to show that Hunt and Pacheco have to continue to improve and increase their production. I think that they ran more like a 1-2 punch in this game against the Jaguars, so that was good to see. Definitely some explosive runs by both of them. We saw a little bit of a flashback of Kareem Hunt with that hurdle that he had, and that took me back immediately to 2018 against the Broncos at Arrowhead, which is a game that my wife and I were at, where he hurdled a defender and then ran 20-some yards for a touchdown. Arrowhead went nuts for that. That was amazing. That's what that play kind of reminded me of. So I think that hurdle play, and then also Kareem Hunt's big run, big gain coming off of the fumble turnover that the Chiefs defense forced at the goal line, that just reminded me that Kareem Hunt can still run. He's still a beast. He might not be as fast, but he's still a great veteran running back to have on this offense. All right, so I think switching over to the defense, there was some optimism early on in the game, seeing the Chiefs defense able to rush for and get pressure on Trevor Lawrence, but that threat seemed to fizzle out as the game went on. We were not able to get pressure on him. We were not able to contain him. We weren't able to get sacks. It did not appear that Spags was really putting much of a spy on Trevor Lawrence, and I feel like that's something that they were doing against Lamar Jackson. Trevor's not as fast as someone like Lamar Jackson, but he used his legs even in college when he was at Clemson. So that was a little frustrating. So I don't know how much of that is kind of on Spags' decision-making. I don't know if that's on, what I was reading Chris Jones say, where in this one article on ESPN, they as the front four, they were undisciplined and they were not staying in their rush lanes well enough. So I don't know if that is just like a matter of getting tired, or they're getting a little bit too aggressive trying to get to Trevor Lawrence, trying to cause disruption. But, that just continues to be an issue, I think, with this defense. If you can't we say it all the time, if you can't get pressure up front, your second and third levels can only cover for so long. And if you're dropping 7-8 guys in coverage with a quarterback that can run, as soon as that front three or front four loses contain, or they get out of their rush lanes, you've got 5-10 easy yards to pick up on the ground. Even Russell Wilson was able to do that a little bit in week 3. That continues to be an issue. I don't really know at this point what the solution is, because no one is really stepping up as a crucial impact player on the D line. No one is really stepping up as like a huge disruptive problem that opposing offenses have to really account for. Chris Jones is that guy for us, clearly. But the fact that he has such a presence and he's a longtime vet at this point, he gets double teamed quite a bit. I know sometimes that I think this is probably Chris Jones' own choosing, but it might also be part of some of the schemes that Spags is running. He does rotate outside to kind of play D-end at times. Jerry Tillery, I think, only has like 1 sack so far this year. Charles Omenihu is definitely making some plays here and there, but it's just not super consistent. I know that he's also a little bit older. He's also battled some pretty severe injuries in his career, so that probably plays a factor into that. And George Karlaftis, it feels like there's some games where he is just like a madman all over the place and a huge difference maker. And there's other games where it's just pretty quiet and you just don't feel like you're really hearing his name called a whole lot. So we need someone, ideally, at least one of those guys, to really step up and just have a consistent impact, be disruptive, be a game-changing force on that D-line. So I think it starts there. Not having an ability to get consistent pressure and also in crucial situations on Trevor Lawrence was pretty critical in this loss. And I think when the Chiefs were up 14-0, because I think this is what later on led to them only being up 14-7. Trevor Lawrence had, I don't know if it was an errant throw or if this was really more on the receiver, but the ball got tipped off of his targeted receiver's hands, and the ball got tipped up in the air. Nick Bolton had a clear chance to intercept this ball. He goes up to try to catch it. Drew Tranquil bumps into him, also going for the ball, and neither of them come up with it. I thought for sure that was an interception. Against a team where the Jagz had been forcing the most turnovers through the first four weeks, I thought for sure that was going to be our first turnover against them to really set the tone on defense. And that was just unfortunate that it's like same team and you guys run into each other and neither of you comes away with it. So that was crucial because instead of being up 14-0, getting the ball back, having a chance for the offense to go down and get points, extend that lead, the Jaguars go down and make it 14-7. That was critical. The unraveling really started, I think, in the second half where penalties just really started to mount, pile up. I believe it was 13 penalties for about 109 yards. That's critical. It's kind of like when you lose the turnover battle, you can't expect to commit that many penalties and realistically still win. You're most likely, at best, going to find yourselves in a position where it's a close game and those penalties have really put you in that position. The penalties have to be cleaned up, and we talk about it every week. I mean, when they won against the Ravens, there were hardly any penalties. That's what the Chiefs are capable of when they play clean football. And unfortunately, when they don't play clean football, they're like a completely different, almost unrecognizable team, which that's just probably one of the most disappointing and frustrating aspects of this team in itself. So on special teams, one of the biggest issues was penalties. I know in particular, Jack Cochran had, I think, 2. I think he had like a holding and either a block in the back or an illegal double team block. But Brashard Smith, he had one big 62 or 63 yard kick return that was brought back from one of those penalties. He might have had another pretty decent return. It was either him or Remillo, and the penalties just killed us in the special teams. And that's something where I don't really think it's Dave Tobe. I just think it's some of the players. We used to have a pretty dominant special teams unit, and there's just been some issues in that phase of the Chiefs right now. So that contributes, though. I mean, if the offense and defense are having some of their struggles and the special teams can't even do things like land a punt deeper around the 5-10 yard line, Matt Arise has been okay, but there's just sometimes where punts are going through the end zone or he's not kicking them deep enough. Bucker having his struggles. It seems like we can't even have a successful kick return go 30 some yards without a holding or a block in the back or something to bring it backward. So that's also just a big part of these struggles. Yeah, so the Mahomes pick 6 was definitely a game changer. At that point, we were tied 14-14. We were knocking on the door. We were within the 5 yard line. I forget what down that play took place on, but as much as I want to see touchdowns, and I know I talked about this last week that if we could have converted some of those field goals in the Ravens game to touchdowns, we're scoring over 40 points. But in a game where you've let it's all about time and place, right? We'll just say that. Against the Ravens, when you're easily cruising, field goal is not going to hurt. You just extend the lead by a little, keep playing great defense. In a game against the Jaguars where you squandered a 14-0 lead and you have a chance to at least put up points here, and you throw an interception, and not only is it an interception, it's a pick 6. And if it wasn't for Josh Simmons against the Eagles chasing down the Eagles defender that caught that interception, who brought it up, I think, past midfield, that also was going to be a pick 6. So this is now 2 interceptions. And the one against the Eagles, that one was on Kelsey. This one against the Jaguars, this was clearly on Mahomes. He had a great game, and it was just that one play really was his one and only mistake, in my opinion. This has just become a problem since the Eagles' Super Bowl loss. This has become a problem where gifting these guys points, giving points to the other team. Having a pick six, it's never good. It's bad in general, but a pick six from 99 yards, you are knocking on the doorstep. You are right there about to punch it in. And even if you don't, you get a field goal. Make the Jaguars have to go down and retake the lead. Don't give them a 7-point lead. I know Mahomes doesn't do that a lot, but we've just got to learn from that. That's a play that you just can't have. It just, in that moment, the Chiefs just looked unrecognizable. You take a drive all the way down to basically the goal line, and you just give it up like that. That, not good. Not good at all. Crucial red zone turnovers, can't have it. And yeah, the momentum really started off in the Chiefs' favor, and it quickly swung to the Jags. The Jags scored 21 unanswered points. They were down 14-0. They came back 21-14. Big momentum swings like that, scoreless like droughts that the Chiefs have, these are all contributing factors. The end of this game just felt really bitter to me. The Chiefs taking the lead back in the final minutes, but the defense unable to finish where we've seen the defense finish before. And like I said, it really started off not in the defense's control. It wasn't their fault that Butker couldn't kick. Again, for a veteran kicker, trying to get too cute, too strategic and precise, trying to kick the ball down towards the corner. I don't know, trying to limit, I guess, like the amount of field space to work with, being so close to the sideline to make the return, but that can't happen. You give them position up to the 40-yard line, and even though Jacksonville, like their first two downs, because I'm pretty sure they took a sack, the first two downs of that drive took up like almost 40 seconds, and then it was that third down that Trevor Lawrence had a big completion that the ball went just over Jalen Watson's hands. He was in good position, couldn't make a play on it. That was it from there. The Jaguars just went down and also took advantage of a pass interference penalty by Tramari Connor in the end zone, and that set them up, and they scored and took the lead. The defense had their chances to get stops on that drive, just like they had chances to stop the Jaguars on other scoring drives earlier in the game, and they just couldn't get it done. Basically, the Chiefs defense gave up, I would say, 24 points in this game, which, isn't awful, but some of those points came at really critical times, unfortunately. I already covered this. Butker had a perfect kicking night in terms of extra points and field goals, but that was easily overshadowed by that kickoff out of bounds. Immediately when he kicked that ball out of bounds, I was just like, why? We take the lead, just pin them deep, make them drive the length of the field. They already have plenty of time. They already have 2 timeouts. Make them drive the length of the field. This is why the dynamic kickoff is proving to be, like, it can either be very rewarding or there can be huge consequences. But just getting it in the landing zone, let your kickoff unit make a play. Let them make the tackle. At least give them a chance to do so. If they let the returner through for, to get through to the 35, 40-yard line or farther, that's on them. But you as the kicker, just get the ball to like the 5-yard line. Just kick it within the 5 or 10-yard line. I don't think that's too much or too hard to ask for. And then, the night just capped off. It felt very similar to Marcus Mariota's pass to himself where he threw to the end zone. The ball got like batted back and he caught it, and then he dove in for a touchdown. The Titans win over the Chiefs in the wild card round in 2017. Trevor Lawrence, the game-winning touchdown run, he actually fell down behind his O-line after the snap. He tripped or something. He fell down and he was able to get up. He wasn't touched and he ran for a touchdown. It was just that kind of ending to that kind of a night. Unfortunate. That's all I can really say. So yeah, in summary, Chiefs did not finish well. They started fast and they didn't finish well. I think some weeks it's been slow start, finished better, win or lose. In this game, started fast, did not finish well. I would always prefer to have a slow start and finish well, even though it's great seeing a fast start, but it's almost like this fast start in this game was too good to be true, which is again, just the word I'm going to keep using is unfortunate, because I think there was so much promise and opportunity for them to do so much more in this game, and they just weren't able to do it, and they beat themselves. But hats off to the Jags. They clawed back, and they are a good team. You cannot give good teams opportunities like that, because the Jaguars took advantage of it. I think that's all that needs to really be said about the loss to the Jaguars. It sucks. It was disappointing. Sitting at 2-3, the only thing that they can really do now is you've got to just continue doing what you've done through the first 5 weeks, and that's flush it, move forward, focus on the Lions now. I think what still concerns me is I just don't like this idea of when Rashee Rice comes back, everything's going to be fixed, because I just can't see that as being true. It would be nice to think in an ideal world that Rashee Rice comes back and this offense can just go out and score 40 points a game. But until they prove that they can do that, I can't really see that happening, because even with Worthy, which that was the point of emphasis through the first 3 weeks, is, oh, well, Worthy got knocked out in the Chargers game, and so the Chiefs' game plan had to change on the fly, in game, in real time. And then the next couple weeks, they didn't have Worthy. Not having him in your game plan really took away a lot of speed and vertical threat. Well, in the Jaguars game, from what I recall, I don't think we successfully connected on any deep throws. I think Mahomes only threw a couple, and one of them I think was way too deep, out of reach, and I don't think we were able to connect on any of them. So you have Worthy right now, and I know he got banged up a little bit in this game, but he came back, and I'm pretty sure he finished the game. Tyquan Thornton wasn't as much of a factor in this game. When Rashee Rice comes back, it's just, I feel like the offense is still the same. The offense has to find a way of not just keeping drives moving and be more consistent and avoiding penalties. They just need to prove that this is about more than just having Rice, Worthy, and all these weapons. Like, really prove and show that with these weapons, what you are capable of doing, and do it on a consistent basis. I think consistency is really the key. Defensively as well. Consistently getting a pass rush. Consistently not having these pass interference and defensive holding penalties called. For a good defense, there's too much of mistakes being made where some of our defensive backs are just not turning their head around, and instead they're just plowing into the receiver before the ball can get there. I don't know if that's what they're being coached, or if they're just so paranoid that, well, I'm beat. The only way I can get over there is just to hope I time it right with the ball and hit at the same time. I just think get your head around, you can make a play on the ball. And then the special teams has got to clean it up. I mean, this was just a game where I don't think anything new was exposed or exploited about the Chiefs. It's just they started well, and then they quickly crumbled. They had a very solid, I would say, quarter to quarter and a half of football collectively, and then just all three phases started just playing worse and worse. Offense and defense still gave themselves chances. Even off what probably should have been a pass interference by the Chiefs, they got an interception and of their own, so they forced 2 turnovers in the game. Whether some calls either way for either of these teams were right or wrong, it just goes to show that the Chiefs can get calls their way and calls not their way, and they can still lose. They just need to play a much better game collectively in terms of clean football. Can't have a lot of these mental errors, because the Lions are a good team. So looking ahead to Sunday Night Football, Lions are a great team. The last time that they played at Arrowhead, they ruined was that coming off of a Super Bowl? I want to say that was coming off of a Super Bowl. Well, they ruined our week 1, home opener. So I would like to see us get revenge, not just for that, but also let's get a win against a good team and prove that we are still a good team. It would be nice to get a win going into the Raider game, as opposed to having like desperation at 2-4. And then, Rashee Rice, please come back and save us. I mean, we still have freaking Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, Chris Jones, Nick Bolton, a great defense, a great offense. I just think we need to play like it. There can't be so many mistakes. Mistakes are just killing us right now. Yeah, I think this podcast, we're going to keep it a little bit shorter this week. And I don't know if I'm going to be able to do week to week. A lot of the same stuff is continued to be talked about week after week. I just feel like a broken record at some points. Just there's not really a whole lot else that I can say, think of, or process through other than at the end of the day, they had a chance to win this game, and the offense this time around did their part and the defense did not. Leading up to that point, they put themselves in that situation as a team. We're just going to leave it there. I'm really hoping for a bounce back win against the Lions. It's going to be a tough game. They are a good, very scary team, but I always believe in the Chiefs. It's just I want to see better. I am going to continue to be a little bit skeptical of whether it's a fast start, whether it's certain things that they do well early on. There's 4 quarters for a reason. I need to see more consistency, cleaned up football, fewer penalties, and we need to just see more mistake-free football from the Chiefs. If you've been watching or listening, thank you so much. Please, again, hit that subscribe button, leave a like, comment, share, follow me on Instagram. Alex Liu, your host here with ALU2 Productions. This has been Win or Lose Chiefs News Podcast Edition on my YouTube channel. The link to my blog is in the description. Again, for all out of town or out of market Chiefs fans, I am located in the DMV, Washington, D.C., Maryland, and Northern Virginia area, and I'm a lifelong Chiefs fan. The purpose of this podcast is to talk about the Chiefs win or lose, and also try to cater to a lot of fans that are like me, living outside of the Kansas City market and area. So thank you so much. We're going to hope for a better outcome this coming Sunday night against the Lions as we return home for a 3-game stretch. Go Chiefs, and we'll see you guys next time.
No, I'm not the same, nigga. I think I done changed, nigga. See something not the same, nigga. I used to walk into the room, head down, I don't walk, now I float on my float on this club. They hanging on to that goose down in my cup. Float on my float on just float. I don't step, I don't walk, I don't dance, I just float, 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 float. I don't dance, I just float, 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 float. I just float. I'm light as a feather, I'm light as a feather, yeah baby I float. It's hard to look at my resume and not find a reason to toast. She throwing that thing in a circle, making it viral, I might just elope. Say listen lil' mama, you like Shabari, watch while I show you the ropes. I used to let niggas get to me, I used to be my own enemy. Now I done had several epiphanies over some breakfast at Tiffany's. Had to forgive all my frenemies, they are not who they pretend to be. I had to protect all my energy, I'm feeling much lighter, now I float on my float on this club. They hanging on to that goose down in my cup. Float on my float on just float. I don't step, I don't walk, I don't dance, I just float, 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 float. I don't dance, I just float, 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 float. I just float. I'll wear the tire, check out the robe, I'm fresh like a pope. I'm doing my dance on catamarans and you got a coat. I'm counting my blessings, we ain't stressing, just look at this glow. I got that magic, I'm really prepared for whatever, whenever, so who wants the smoke? Came back from the future to take all y'all niggas and take all y'all hoes. They said I was by, yeah baby I'm by a whole nother coast. She stay in the hills, he stay in Atlanta, I pay for them both. My face card don't come with a limit, I swipe it, I spin it, I swear I be doing the most. Float, float on my float on this float. They hanging on to that